Good morning, everyone. Welcome back here to a Monday, 10:11 a.m. That's California time here. October 13th, 2025 is the date. Latest activity shows a 2.5 earthquake here, somewhere hiding out here in the green flag. It looks like around the Indonesia area. Looking at the last 24 hours here of earthquake activity, some further adjustment down here across New Zealand. Yesterday they had a 4.6 here north off of the North Island area. Now we got some movement happening this morning south. Man, right in that middle point boundary there, New Zealand rides on is a major hazard zone. It still needs to fill in there. Obviously, there's certain regions that are capable of producing large earthquakes out there around New Zealand, so just stay on guard. Also, some further movement up north here off of the plate boundary into this little fracture zone here. A 5.9 earthquake struck. Again, that's off of the main plate boundary, which is a subduction zone here, a portion of the Mariana Trench. But this earthquake strike in kind of an odd location. Obviously, we can get earthquakes out here. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what the historical data tells us. This is 5.9 coming in this morning. Specifically within the region there, it looks like there's been a handful of smaller quakes up north and even maybe some larger ones outside of that main zone. But it's not all that common. You know, if you look at the plate tectonic map here, you can see where the majority of the earthquakes strike. And that's always going to be along the plate boundary or fracture boundaries out here when it comes to plate tectonics. But occasionally we get these little odd quakes there off of the plate boundary. Kind of see a little trail leading off here. Almost looks like it may be connected down south here to the Papua New Guinea area. All right, California. We got some movement stirring up there in northern California. Not a swarm, but I'm watching this here because we got a little line up here. Right, this is the extreme northern end here of the San Andreas Fault, right around the Mendocino Triple Point boundary. Obviously, things can get strained up here. This is where the 7-pointer struck back in December of last year. This morning, a number of earthquakes there in the 2 range, including the largest, a 2.8. The latest, though, shows a 2.1 back here. So a little bit of bouncing back and forth here in this area. Watch the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. I know I keep saying it, but when you think about it here, excuse me, we're living in a time here where we could be talking about having a Cascadia earthquake here soon. The weather's completely changed today. We got rain coming in. I think we're going to get like an inch of rain or so. I can feel it in my voice. It's weird. All right, so check this out real quick. This is just an image of a 10,000-year historical look back at the Cascadia reoccurrence interval lengths. Notice here recently in the last 4,000 years that the events here have gotten, in terms of the time it takes to see a big earthquake, they've gotten shorter. Right? There was actually, in the last 4,000 years, 19 intervals, which are all of them, and that includes the partial ruptures as well, the southern end, were all under 325 years. So in this time right now, you know, it's 2015. Our last one was 325 years ago. So we've had no events go longer than where we're at right now in the last 4,000 years. So 100% of known partial ruptures and full ruptures of the Cascadia happened. It looks like the longest was 291 years until now. We're at 325. So at any minute, we could have a big earthquake. That's how close we are to experiencing a 9.0 out here. And I'm out here myself. I would definitely experience it. If you go back a couple more thousands of years, there were only 2 intervals there that lasted over 325 years. And if you go back, 10,000 years, there were 7 intervals of 325 years. But if you look, the reoccurrence intervals are getting, it looks like it's shorter in the last few thousand years there. So just be on guard. We've gotten a lot going on with the Cascadia tremor up here. Slow slip events have been quite high. Yesterday, let's see what we got here. We'll double check that. Yesterday, 440 epicenters of slow slip events, mainly up around Vancouver Island ranges there. It's been working its way northward, it looks like, from the Olympia area, which is common. It does have that type of repetitive behavior when it comes to this specific area. More down south here across southern Oregon, southern coast of Oregon, and northern California as well. So I think things are straining down here, and in its entirety, things are straining across Cascadia. So perfect time for a train to go by, and that's a loud one. All right, let's see what else we got here for Washington. A couple smaller earthquakes up there this morning. Nothing big, but I'm gonna double check things out here, make sure we're not skipping over like a huge event, like a big time swarm, and no one's reporting on it. A lot of times you have to go here to the graphs and take a look here at the data yourself. There was an earthquake there about 3 o'clock this morning. A couple earthquakes. To me, it looks like things are starting to pick back up out here across Mount Rainier. That was at 3:30 or so. Let me see if that was up here. There we go, 3:30. So one earthquake reported there, very shallow up at the summit area for a 1.3. So that's a 1-pointer, right? 1.3. But I guarantee you and I've been saying it all along, that these other events are not they're not ice quakes. I don't think we're having ice quakes like that every day. Or rock slides like they claim some of this noise is. But those are smaller earthquakes than the 1.3. But there's still earthquake activity occurring. That's at Mount Rainier in Washington. Now, it's not as large as what it was back in July, when we were having hundreds of earthquakes, right? You see all those? They didn't call those ice quakes and rock falls at the time. After a month of swarming, they decided to call some of these events ice quakes to maybe settle everyone down. So not as intense as July, but hey, what do you see? There's still earthquake activity occurring. And you really can't hide the 1-pointers. That's why they have to show those there. Otherwise, someone's not doing their job out there. That's at Mount Rainier. Mount St. Helens, a couple smaller events on the map last night. Let me see what we got this morning for the data, because Mount St. Helens been seeing a little bit of swarming as well. Been a little crazy out there across a number of volcanoes. Last night, looks like around 7:30ish, 7:40 or so, a little earthquake. Nothing being reported there. But as you can see, similar to Mount Rainier, there's a couple other smaller events there in the background. And it's been like that for a couple weeks here. Not as intense as a Mount Rainier swarm, but there's definitely some earthquake activity out there on the seismograph stations. Someone mentioned, I seen a comment here recently about Mount Adams. Let's go take a look here real quick. Mount Hood's another place that's been seeing a little bit of earthquake activity. Mount Adams is, they need to get more monitoring stations up there. This one here, Stagman Ridge area, is away from the summit volcano. That looks like some type of interference, but you really can't see what's really going on up at the summit area without a seismograph station up there. Mount Hood, let's check this out real quick. I know nothing really showing up here in the last couple days, but they've been having some activity as well. This is the top of Palmer Lift. Sometimes noisy. But if you see here in the background, notice those are earthquakes out there. Looks a little odd here, but let me see if we can get a different station to key up. Yeah, this is still out of whack. Something's going on, but there's still earthquake activity. See these little events there? There's 5 or 6 of them. Nothing being reported. If we go back the last 30 days, yes, they reported a few of them, about 18 earthquakes, but there's still activity occurring, at least across 3 volcanoes out there that we can monitor the data ourselves. 1.7 up there on the Seattle fault zone. That's not a good one to have activity on, because that's capable of producing the 7.5 directly underneath Seattle. And the last one, it looks like it was about a couple thousands of years ago, and it's possible here the reoccurrence interval runs around that time frame as well. But a lot of time has passed for that. The Cascadia, man, a lot of interesting potential out here. All right, California, aside from the movement up north, Bay Area fairly quiet today. Parkfield section of the San Andreas Fault remains locked and quiet. Same for the San Andreas Fault. Anything above 2.5, we got Two earthquakes there from yesterday. That was up around Tom's place, just outside Long Valley Supervolcano, which is quiet for now. Aside from that, general small microquake activity out there. Little cluster going on here underneath the Gardenia area. Willowbrook. This is associated with, it's a Newport-Inglewood fault. Yeah, we don't want that thing rocking. Rose Canyon fault zone. Let's go over and check that real quick. See what we got here for the data from the site I'm trying to find here real quick. Where is it? Recent earthquakes. Where did it go? Webby quarters. I really need to organize my bookmarks a little bit better. I know. There's just so many of them. You know, you see an interesting site and you're like, oh man, I got to come back and check this out. I didn't want that. That's just the earthquake map. Just another form of the data on there. But if I could get these alphabetical, that would be awesome. I just never really tried to do that. Webby quarters. Recent earthquakes. I'm looking for the data center right here. Okay, so the Newport-Inglewood fault, Rose Canyon fault zone. I believe that's the one that's showing that little swarm activity right now. North Los Angeles Basin, and then you got the other one up here, which is well, I guess it is the it's just a little glitchy here. North Los Angeles Basin section. So we would be looking at, I guess it'd be this one here. Surface trace is discontinuous in the Los Angeles Basin, but the fault zone can be easily noted by the existence of a chain of low hills extending from Culver City to Signal Hill. Possible magnitudes run between 6 to 7.4. Super slow slip rate. Most recent surface rupture, but no surface rupture. Read that. The most recent surface rupture was March 10th, 1933, with an M 6.4, but no surface rupture. So I wonder if that was it. I mean, I'm guessing maybe that was a full release of the strain that's been building up out there. But at that rate there, it takes a long time, probably thousands of years, to build up enough earthquake strain. But we do have, what looks like a little swarm out there. Nothing big. Number of 2s and 1s out there. It all started this morning about 6 o'clock or so. Last one was at 8:38. So there was a little period there of some elevated activity, and that is deep underneath the area. 10, 12 miles or so. That's a little bit more deep than most of the quake activity out here. Yeah, I'm not for sure where the Rose... Is this a Rose Canyon? It's a fairly lengthy fault system if you really think about it. Maybe these are connected more than what they know here. Anyway, a couple other ones up here as well. West Hollywood from yesterday, a little 1.1, 1.5 this morning as well, roughly about 7 o'clock this morning north here of the area of the activity this morning. So we'll just continue to watch it. I do like to pay attention to these fault systems that are away from the plate boundary that really haven't been active in a while start to show uptick. Either way, maximum pressurization it's locked out here across the San Andreas Fault. It is ready as can be. Here's a real quick map, a little model. The 168 should be down here for the 1857 earthquake. It's been 168 years. Average intervals run, I think, 150 to 160 years on the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. So we are overdue with respect to that. The bad thing is that a chunk of the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault did not rupture back in 1857. So that's been actually over 300 years. They believe that had coincided with the Cascadia earthquake in 1700. you know how there's been a lot of chat here recently that the San Andreas Fault could trigger the Cascadia. Cascadia could trigger the San Andreas Fault. So it's a little scary if you think about it, because the damage out here would be incredible. You know, to have a world or a entire West Coast earthquake. You know, it could rupture between minutes or hours of each other. Would definitely put a strain out there on the emergency service response. But 300 years since the southern branch, that tells me right there that the next time this ruptures, which could be soon, it will definitely it will be an entire section here of the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. So this didn't rupture last time, which makes sense. I don't see this going much longer than 300 years. But it's been 325 years, right? That's 1700 or so. Parkfield section, that's could be overdue as well for at least a 6-pointer every 20 to 22 years for the reoccurrence interval. Up north, northern segment of the San Andreas Fault, 1906 there was the last event. Just we do got to be on guard out here, folks. None of this stuff here happened like it was yesterday. You know, we're not in the rebuilding phase of following a big event, which means we could have decades or a century or so to enjoy life before another big earthquake happens. We're in the enjoyment of life, but at the time here where that the big event may be around the corner. Yellowstone National Park, nothing really showing up there for now. I do want to double check the seismograph stations though, see what we have going on today. Pretty quiet out there, at least on that one. Let me see what this other one looks like. This one's a little bit more amplified in terms of the sensitivity. This event right here, I was about 10 o'clock last night. What was around there at 10 o'clock? Almost looks like a bigger event somewhere. I don't see anything around 10 o'clock that may have made that noise. See that? Looks like it's possible it could be a deep earthquake somewhere, but whatever it wasn't picked up out here anywhere. I don't see any large earthquake around that time around the planet that would make that noise like that. So maybe some deeper activity underneath the Yellowstone area. But really, I don't see anything. There's a couple smaller quakes here. Really nothing of big nature, though. They did report one from last night. That was at 11:30, maybe. Well, 11:30 for a 1.8. $11:30. That would be mountain time, right? So maybe that is that event, but it looks weird. That's too drawn out. Maybe in there was the 1.8, but we'll continue to watch. I don't see any major uptick yet, but 2025 is an interesting year, let me tell you. New Madrid seismic zone over here looks a little bit more active as well. We got 3 earthquakes being reported. 2.4, the largest from yesterday. One more this morning, a little 1.9 outside outside the area. I'm not sick. Haven't got sick there. Missy Mimi's was sick for a little bit. I never caught it. But, oh man, just a voice here this morning. It could just be the dampness in the air. I don't know. Either way, lots of rain is coming. We'll check that out here in a minute. Far as anything else goes, across the eastern portion of the country, pretty quiet there. Puerto Rico, a couple smaller quakes today, but most of that's from yesterday. Hold on one second. See if I can get that out. Goodness. It's Monday. It's a Monday. I have several chances to get it right. All right. I've always considered Monday Monday shouldn't be all that serious. Yes, it's the start of the work week, but hey, let's don't be too hard on ourselves out here. So pretty active here across the Java Trench. Look at that activity. That follows some deeper movement there yesterday. Those deeper quakes do tend to get things in motion out here, and there's a pretty good trail of activity with a 4.9 there last night. Further newer activity up around the plate boundary. Not so much northward here, but that may fill in. An area that I'm waiting for is around the Taiwan area up along this plate boundary to the Nankai Trough. That still has yet to show any movement, and it's been pretty quiet even since when that 7-pointer struck down there in the Philippines. I was really expecting that to fill in, but so far, nothing. Still some aftershock activity there in the Philippines. Quite a bit of aftershock activity. This is just the last 24 hours. As far as any newer, larger movement down here, looks like they're finally starting to get a little break. I only see a 4.5 and a 4.5, the latest there this morning. Again, aftershock activity still quite numerous, and there's always a possibility we could see some further large-scale activity. You know, looking back here at the last 7 days, here's where the 7-pointer struck. What I find interesting is that there was a bunch of newer movement up north here along this area of the Philippine Trench, including a 6-pointer away from this area. So it's that's not an aftershock, but a sign of further stress and strain up here on the northern section of the Philippine Trench, which is capable of in excess of an 8.0 earthquake. So just kind of watching that, seeing how that plays out. One earthquake from, I think that's from last night, 4.7. Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, most of this activity from yesterday as far as the USGS reported events go. There's New Zealand's 4-pointer down there. Just kind of a broad amount of earthquake activity here globally. Nothing big going on for now, but a lot of older activity there across the Mediterranean. I did see some activity around the Campi Flegrei fields there in Italy, but it's not, like I say, most of this earthquake activity, and I've been checking on it, it's just been scattered here over the last week or so. This is a region of interest here that a lot of people fear is going to pop soon, but if it's going to do that, we're going to see way more earthquake activity than what's noted here. There's been a slight increase in very small earthquakes in this area over the last couple days. Today, though, only one reported event, a little 2.2. So I don't see any signs here that this thing is anywhere near having any type of eruption. Let's see, one earthquake up in Alaska. I don't see anything big happening out there for now. Looks like a typical beautiful day up there in Alaska. I need to get back up there. Absolutely love the outdoors out there. Just wilderness everywhere. I was up here a couple years ago. Flew into Anchorage and drove. Beautiful drive up here to Fairbanks. Quite a bit of scenery out there. I was actually in the wintertime. Snow-packed roads. I mean, just ice. But a good thing I had a all-wheel drive car. Definitely a must out there, but it's beautiful. All right, let's see. Anything else new popping up here in Northern California since I've been talking? Not yet. Let's check out space weather activity. Look at that sizzling going on. It's almost like something frying in a frying pan, right? That's quite a bit of instability showing up there. Had a number of M flares overnight, and I got to change mine here. I keep forgetting it's on my live stream, but let's see where that's. I can already see where it's coming from. This area right here. Is this recent? This looks like it's a day old. Let's see, because I know the UTC time is not 10:13, 1700. Let's see what we got. Our UTC time right now is going to be, oh, maybe it is. It's a Monday. There's, how many more mistakes do I have left? This almost looks identical to yesterday with that flaring. So this has to be that sunspot there that's producing all the M-flare activity. That is going to be sunspot number 4246. This image here is a little behind now. I do know that. About 17 hours behind or so. So this one's getting quite complex. There's another area over here that shows some complexity and growth as well. 4246, though, it looks like it wants to produce a stronger flare than what it's doing. When it's sizzling, I like to call it sizzling here on the chart because it just reminds me of it. Look how it goes from completely calm to the last couple days as that or technically the last 36 hours or so since that sunspot's been growing, just sizzling out here with a C and M flare activity. That's normally when you can see a decent size X flare. I do think we have a chance of seeing that as well. Right now, the overall threat shows 50% chance for M flare, X flare at 5. No major roars there in the forecast. That never materialized last night or the night before, and it probably won't tonight because that is past. I mean, we still got high-speed solar wind stream up there, but we have the northward pointing BT-BZ component that will completely suppress any aurora activity. So it doesn't matter if we have 1,000 speed here. If things are on the north side with this NT, that means we'll see something like that. Nothing. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, there was a couple M flares there. That's pretty crazy. This is a M2.7 from this morning or last night. This almost looks like a little bit more complex image of 4246. I'll definitely watch that. All right, let's check out the close approach asteroids here on the planet. See what's going on. This one's coming in today, just under a million miles. Fairly small, though. And again, that's fairly safe, though, at that distance. A little bit closer, well, a little bit further away from today's event. They're coming in tomorrow for a 53-foot house-size asteroid, and everything else looks fairly safe there. I don't see anything of close approach. Nothing massive. Those are all little tiny space rocks. All right, severe weather out here today. We do have a marginal risk across Southern California, also down into Arizona. We got a massive low-pressure system coming up here. Let me go over here and see if I can show you guys. Bring up my goes west imagery. It's looking pretty crazy. It's a developing low, and it's set to bring in a sufficient amount of moisture here for California and cold air. Look at that, just now getting going, tapping into some moisture out here in the Pacifics. Look at the convection band right here. Hasn't hit me yet. About another hour or so, maybe 2 hours, we'll start getting heavy rain, and it should last all the way till tonight. But that is a super deep trough there. Bringing some snow up there as well across the Sierra Nevada mountains. We're talking about feet of snow this early in the season. This is a very early season storm for us here. It's just most of the time we don't start seeing these until end of November, when our rainy season really starts to ramp up. A bunch of lightning out here, out in the Pacific. Not so much associated with this storm, but we do have chances there of some thunderstorm activity. As you can see here on the map, listed green. Marginal risk down there across Southern California. That also includes Santa Barbara area. Looks like maybe some wind potential down there in Southern California. A little bit of hail threat down there in Arizona. But that's just a beautiful image here. I can't wait to see what it looks like once it's fully tapped into some moisture. Either way, we got a decent amount of rain coming up here. Let's go ahead and check out the tropics out here, see if we got anything as far as hurricane activity goes. Put this into motion, and we'll take a look here. Yeah, you know what? It's been a crazy year, hasn't it? There's one way down south there off the tip of Florida. That's way almost into November, towards the end of this month. So more than likely, this model's not going to paint this picture. But we'll check back on it, obviously, as we get closer. But how about this hurricane season? Most of the activity has been way out in the Atlantic. Really nothing here in the Gulf. Nothing really slamming into the East Coast. I mean, there's been, some effects recently. But it's been kind of a quiet hurricane season out here for these folks, which is, probably a good thing. But we'll check back on that. I don't want to jinx it, but we'll check back on that here as we get a little bit closer to that time period. All right. Yeah, pretty quiet across the board there. Let me see where our rain's at. Kind of want to take a look here and see where we're at for the rainfall. Yeah, just starting to come in a little bit. These bands will amplify throughout the afternoon. Looks like it may just be sprinkling outside of a Chico area here now. But we do have some decent precipitation coming up. Look at that. This is just in the next 24 hours or so. Around this area of Calusa, wow, some of these are showing 2 inches or so. Up around Willows. Redding area is at the northern end of it. They're getting less of it, just the way the angle of this low pressure is coming in. The main convection band is going to amplify through the afternoon and really come up the Sacramento Valley. This is perfect here for the valley because we're not getting a rain shadow effect. If the rain came from the west to the east, the mountains would soak up all the rain, skip over to the valley, or do we get minimal precipitation and then it ramp up again in the Sierra Nevada. But low pressure spinning and that convection band is just funneling in moisture right up the valley. Sacramento is going to get a decent amount of precipitation as well, almost 2 inches. That's a ECMWF, the GFS model. Yeah, GFS model not calling for much up north. Still some rain, but a lot less aggressive. Hopefully that doesn't hold out. HRRR model, which is a high resolution data. Still showing some activity over here. A bunch up in the mountains. Quite a bit actually up here. A couple inches. Either way, rainfall for all. Out here across California. I don't know, some may see more than others, but either way, I'll take it over 100 degrees, which it could happen in October. We've had 100-degree days here in, I think it was last year, close to 100. I'll take 65 over 100 any day. Not even joking. All right, let's see here. Real quick glance at this again. A little earthquake on Russia, Philippines, Japan, Chile. Those are all very small earthquakes, but we'll keep an eye on things today here, folks. Of course, if anything major jumps in here or pops up, we'll know about it. And, of course, we'll jump here on the live stream and do an update. Have a good one. We'll see you guys out here a little bit later on this evening for the Monday night update.